Yo, what is up, Broncos country, man? Me and Muhammad are here tonight to talk about free agency, all the moves that were made from the Broncos to every other team, maybe our expectations of the 2025 season, and everything, man. We got a lot to get into tonight, a lot of news, a lot of fun stuff. So let's get into it. But the first thing I wanted to jump into, Muhammad, was I wanted to get your take on this. The Broncos have 7 picks. They finally got all their draft picks back after years of not having them because of the Russell Wilson trade. Thank God. Um, we got 7 picks this year. We got a first rounder, second, third, fourth, and 3/6. The Broncos are picking at 20. What are your thoughts? Those are the picks that the Broncos are locked into. They got no compensatory picks this year. They just got the regular picks. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Eddie, the way I looked at it even before free agency, that we have like five main things that we're, supposed to concentrate on when we go to the draft. As far as the offense goes, tight end and running back, we all know about that. And then as far as the defense, safety, inside linebacker, and defensive tackle, a pass rusher, whatever, right? Something like that. So, this has kind of been addressed on during free agency, so that gives the Broncos a little flexibility. But I would still round one probably go with the running back. Hopefully Genti drops to us. Second round probably go with the tight end. Um, and then you're very flexible as far as what you do. You can go D tackle. You can get another safety, maybe an inside linebacker, offensive tackle, whatever. I mean, even a wide receiver. You have that flexibility. So, and we have the picks to do it. And thanks to free agency, like I said, that kind of makes our job a little easier because now you have all this flexibility to pick who you want. You don't have to necessarily go with a certain need per se.
Yeah, I'm excited for the draft, man. We got little more than a month left to go until the draft's here, and before we know it, after the draft, then you're going to have training camp, and the season's going to be here, man. It's going to get here quick. And I know Broncos country is just even after free agency, the Bronco fans they're just literally salivating at the mouth for the season to get here because we made some major upgrades this year. But the first free agency signing I wanted to talk about, actual free agency signing, a guy that came in it's not the bigger one. It was one that kind of flew under the radar. But this to me was mostly, from the Smith, the cornerback, him leaving and going to the Texans. The Broncos did sign Vikings wide receiver Trent Sherfield to a 2-year, $6 million deal. What were your thoughts on this?
I was actually kind of surprised, Eddie, because he's not a name that I was kind of familiar with. But then the more I looked at it, I figured that this is really a special team player than more than a wide out. He might be used as that at some point, but mostly he's going to be like a special team person. So, hey, it's a good signing. It's going to help our special team. So why not?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, you might like if we have injuries, which knock on wood, I don't think the Broncos will because you know, um, our training coaching staff, like they're really, really good. We haven't hardly had any injuries over the last couple of years. And, that was a big talking point about some of the guys that we did sign from free agency, about their injury history. But the Broncos have been, honestly, I think last year they were one of the healthiest teams, if not the healthiest team in the NFL. But going off of that, I should have touched on this first. That's my fault, guys. But these are the signings that the Broncos made, the departures, players that they've lost, and players of their own that they've re-signed. I'm going to start with the losses first, then we'll go through our personal re-signings, and then the actual signings that we made in free agency. So the first loss that we lost, which is honestly, in my opinion, probably the biggest one, was inside linebacker Cody Barton. What was your initial reaction to that, Mohammed?
Man, I was kind of sad to see him go, Eddie. Honestly, but hey, we got Greenlaw, so that kind of I would rather have him, to be honest with you. No, nothing against Barton, but he was a good player for us. So I guess that's football, man. That's the business side of things. So
Yeah, and Barton, I really do like Barton. I hope he thrives in Tennessee. I really do. He was when Alex Singleton went down last year, he was to me, he was I wouldn't say the core of that defense, but he was the one wearing the green dye. He was the play caller on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm not gonna lie, he did a hell of a job with that last year. After Singleton went down and Barton had to take over the play calling role, he did a hell of a job, man. Like he was like the middle of that offense through and through. Like, you know, he I mean his coverage skills weren't that great, but man, he brought life to that defense in a way. He really did. And I was kind of bummed, but like you said, it is what it is. When you're a good team that makes the playoffs, you're going to lose players. You're going to lose coaches. You're going to lose players. That's just the way the business is. If you're a good team and you make the playoffs, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The next loss that we lost was this one. We all knew it was coming. Like we knew it was coming even before the year started. And some of it hurt. Some of us it hurt more than others because we were really praying for this guy, especially after his injury. And that's Javonte Williams. What were your initial thoughts on the Broncos releasing him?
I mean, we kind of expected that to happen, Eddie. I mean, based on his production last year, I don't think it was all his fault because he got injured and he was never the same player. But like I said about Bart, man, it's just how football works sometimes. I'm glad he got a team. I think he went to the Cowboys, right? The
Yeah,
Cowboys.
I think it was like a 1 year deal, $3 million.
Yeah, I feel bad for him for going to the Cowboys, but other than that, I mean, hey, we're about to get our running back in this draft, so good luck to
Yep.
him.
And like I said, it does suck because if Javante wouldn't have tore his MCL, his ACL a couple years back, I don't think the Broncos are looking for a running back in this draft. I think he'd still be the RB1 of the future for this team because he would still be the old Javante, the guy that was breaking tackles, just picking up extra yards after contact. Like it's just a bummer. I mean, I'll still support his jersey because to me, he was a decent Bronco. It just sucks that injury happened. And it just personally, I think at this point, I think it derailed his career.
It did.
He's going to go to the Cowboys. Maybe he has a solid year, maybe a bounce back year. But and running backs shelf life in this NFL, granted, with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, they kind of revitalized their career. I still don't think running backs they're a big necessity, but you're not going to be seeing a lot of big paydays for running backs. And Javonte, unless he has a breakout year this year and the 2026 some team takes a big chance onto him, I don't think he's going to be in the NFL for much longer. Honestly, I'd say probably about another 3-4 years, if that. It sucks. I hate it for him. I really do. Next loss, which this one I was kind of hoping maybe he would come back for another year, but I'm not too worried about it. He went to the Miami Dolphins, and that I think it was like a 1 year, $10 million deal, and that's Zach Wilson. What were your thoughts about him leaving?
Yeah, Eddie, I mean, he wasn't like a bad player by any means, but I wasn't really kind of surprised that he kind of walked and got a deal somewhere else. I'm glad he did. Good luck to him also, but nothing that's really going to affect the team, I would say.
And it's probably good for him in the sense that he's probably going to see some playing time in Miami. Like he wasn't going to see it here. You got Bo Nix and Jared Stidham. Like you're the third stringer. You're probably not going to see much playing time here unless by some horrible reason Bo Nix and Jared Stidham both go down. And I hate saying this. I like watching Tua play. He's fun, but he's very injury prone. Like I would not be surprised if he gets hurt again this season and you see Zach Wilson out there on the field. I really wouldn't. So
he probably learned a lot being with Sean Payton.
Oh yeah, I think he did. That's a good thing. Maybe he goes down to Miami, has that 1 year deal, he gets some playing time, and maybe he shows like, hey, I've changed. I'm a better kind of like the Sam Darnold thing, and then he goes down and he gets a decent contract. I hope that for Zach Wilson. I really do. Also, guys, thank you for the comments. Please get your comments in. We'll get to them here in a minute. Also, like, comment, subscribe on this video, and also hit the bell notification so you know when we go live. The next departure was Termon. I always butcher his name. Termon Smith, the cornerback, the special teamer, which we kind of talked about as replacement. What were your thoughts about him departing and going to the Houston Texans?
That's another player. I'm not really surprised. He's not as far as like how many corners we have on our team. The fact that him getting that much play time. It's always good for players to go somewhere else where they might play. We might get to start or something. That's another player. So I'm glad he got an opportunity somewhere else.
I do have one quick question. This ain't really Broncos related; it's more Texans related. But what were your thoughts? Like their offensive line was garbage last year. What were your thoughts about them trading their best offensive lineman? I forgot who they traded them to, but they traded their best offensive lineman away.
The
Larry
Commanders,
Tunsil.
right?
What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, they're just acting like the Chiefs, Eddie. Like, I don't get it, Eddie. Like for me, Eddie, like the D line and the O line, you don't touch those. If you have a good
Nope.
player there, do not trade them. They're not
Nope.
easy to find. They're not easy to come by. So why would you go ahead and trade? It's going to directly affect their quarterback. So I don't know, Eddie. Like I do not know what to think.
It's wild, man. I don't understand it either. Like you got to protect your biggest investment, your young franchise quarterback. I don't know what the hell the Texans are thinking with that move. Next departure, which is the last one so far that I got listed here anyway. Which this one ain't that big. I think they're gonna probably go out in the next couple of days in free agency. You'll see them sign somebody, and that's punter Riley Dixon. He went to the I believe the Bucks. What were your thoughts on that departure?
I was actually kind of surprised, Eddie, with that one. I didn't see it coming. But hey, I mean, like I said, man, he already signed with the team, right?
Yeah, I think he made it official on yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, good luck to him, but I didn't. I thought he did okay last year, so I don't know why the Broncos did that, but hey.
Yeah, a lot of people were fine with it because he really wasn't that great. Like he really, I think his average punt was like 25 yards or something. I can't remember what the stats were, but to me, it doesn't really move the needle. I'm sure the Broncos are going to find a punter. Hopefully, they're not going to be punting that much this next year with this
Maybe that's
offense that
that's
they're going
the
to have.
thing, yeah. But it's
Yeah,
probably because of the special team coordinator. Maybe he wanted his own people, his own person to let
Rizzy,
somebody.
yeah, he probably wanted his own guy. Um, but moving into the Broncos re-signings, the guys they re-signed back to their team. The first one, it's been a Broncos entire career. And honestly, it's good to have your long snapper, and that's Mitch Fairboni, I think his name is long snapper. What were your thoughts on the Broncos re-signing him?
Like I said, I mean, Eddie, if you're a decent player, there's no reason why we should move on from you. So I'm glad he's staying with us.
Yeah, me too. He's doing he does really good. I like him as long snapper. He does a great job, and he got rewarded. I think it was like, I can't remember if it was a year or 2 year deal he signed. I think it was like a year
Couple
deal
years.
worth like 1 point something million. I can't remember off the top of my head. The next re-signing the Broncos made was Matt Parrott, offensive tackle. So the Broncos have the swing tackle. He is a good backup to have. What were your thoughts on that signing?
Hey, I'm glad we're keeping him, Eddie. We can use the help. You never know with the O line. Anything happens, you can always bring in. You have someone ready to play. So yeah, kudos to the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm glad they brought him
Compared to
back.
the teams who are letting starters, from the O line go.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they brought him back. I think they also will have probably crap. What was his name? The backup guard that we had. He got injured last year in training camp and was out for the season. I forgot who it was. It'll come to me in short time. But the next signing, which I'm not mad about. I'm really not mad about this. The Broncos re-signed Jared Stidham to be Bo Nix's backup. Your thoughts on this?
Um, I was kind of surprised. I know we touched on Zach Wilson. I thought the thinking would be to keep Zach Wilson, but I guess it makes more sense, Eddie, to bring him back. He's been an assistant for what? This is his third year, right? Going into a third year.
Yeah,
So yeah, so
yeah. he got signed in the offseason of 23, so this will be his third season he's going into with the
Third season,
Broncos.
yeah. Under Sean Payton, he knows the system, he knows the plays. God forbid anything happens, he can come in and he can just run the offense. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
and he
good.
knows the offense. That's the main thing I love is that they brought back Stidham. He's been in the system for 2 years. He knows it. Like you said, God forbid, knock on freaking wood,
Yeah.
Knicks doesn't go down. But if Knicks does go down, we know Jared Stidham can operate this offense, and he knows it. So that's the best thing. And the last re-signing, which was honestly the big one to me, because I was kind of worried what they were going to do with this position with his departure, and that is nose tackle DJ Jones. They brought him back, I think, for like a 2-year deal. I think it was. I can't remember off the top of my head. Kept that interior or kept that defensive line together. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely a good sign. He did really well last. He probably helped a lot with the production and all the sacks that the Broncos had. By his play. I wanted Jonathan Allen to come to the Broncos, but when we signed him, I figured that that's probably not going to happen. I forgot who he went to. He went to the Vikings, I think. Jonathan Allen.
Who's that?
Jonathan Allen.
I want to say, yeah, he did go to the Vikings.
Vikings, yeah.
They
Remember when
signed a
when the
couple of
Commanders
defensive
released him, I
linemen.
wanted him to come to the Broncos, but hey,
Yeah,
he's
they signed a couple of defensive linemen. The Vikings did.
yeah, but yeah. I mean, it's good that we're keeping him, Eddie. Like trying to keep that line together. Not trying to lose anybody and just keep this thing. Hopefully, we can add to it going into the draft. Maybe even whatever is left for
Yeah,
free agent.
yeah. I'm really freaking excited about that, man. I'm so glad we got him back, and it keeps that defensive line together, just like the offensive line. You don't want to tear that thing apart. You don't want to get rid. I mean, sometimes you can't help it because the player's asking for too much money and you have to move on. Like Lloyd Cushenberry a few years ago. Like, granted, I love Luke Wattenberg. I think he's a great center, but it's like we couldn't pay Lloyd Cushenberry what he wanted because of the Russell Wilson deal. So that's the nature of the beast. It's going to happen. You're going to lose players that you really want to keep. But going into finally our actual free agency signings, um, this is where I got giddy when I saw all these freaking things pop up on Twitter. But the first big signing the Broncos made was safety from the 49ers, Hufunga, which we desperately needed that upgrade over PJ Locke. What were your thoughts initially on this signing?
I just couldn't quite believe that what the Broncos were doing, Eddie. Like, I know he was like the first player we actually heard about him. The possibility of him coming to the Broncos, and all of a sudden, boom, he's signed. He was one of the top safeties on this free agency. So, kudos to the Broncos, man. I mean, and not only that, Eddie. I mean, he's a All Pro. Um, some injury history, I guess, but with our training staff, we shouldn't have an issue. But how much did we get him for? That's the whole thing, Eddie. We didn't really overspend. Look at all the other teams. They had to spend a fortune to get all these players in. But all the free agents we signed, we didn't really spend a lot of money on. So kudos to the Broncos. A great safety, definitely an upgrade to our safety room.
Yeah, they desperately needed it too because PJ Locke just wasn't it. Like he had a good year in 2023 whenever he came back from injury, but this year that guy was getting burned left and right. They signed Hufunga. I think it was to a 3-year deal, 45 million, including 20 million guaranteed. So, you got Hufunga at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But the next big free agency sign, this is the one where I think the 49ers really felt the loss, and Bronco fans are just overjoyed, especially after the departure of Cody Barton, and that was Dre Greenlaw. What were your thoughts to this?
Oh my God, Eddie. I mean, I've been like pounding the table for an inside linebacker since the Super Bowl. I'm like, we never really had, a true inside linebacker. And, when Zach Bond got signed, by the Eagles, I was like, my God, because that was my guy, right? And then the guy from the Chiefs got signed. They re-signed their guy, so he was out of the table, and he was the top inside linebacker, Greenlaw. I remember we talked about it last week, Eddie. He was like number one, and for the Broncos to go ahead and get him, and also in a discount, they didn't really spend a lot on him. He was the top inside linebacker. Now we don't even have to worry about that, Eddie.
Nope.
Like all the stuff we were saying about the D line and stuff. Now teams are gonna be like, they got this safety back there, they got this inside linebacker, and then you got and our corners. It's gonna take the quarterback forever to throw the ball, and our guys will be coming. So it's really good, really good. I'm so
And they
excited about
signed
this.
Greenlaw to a 3-year, $35 million deal, which is good. I know a lot of 49er fans, they were upset about losing Hufanga, but they were even more devastated about losing Greenlaw. They really were. Like, they were truly devastated about that move because he's a really – granted, they still have Fred Warner, but Greenlaw was – he was beloved in 49ers area. One re-sign I did miss was Justin Sherrod. He re-signed again with the Broncos with like a 1-year, $3 million or $2 million deal. What were your thoughts on that, real quick, Mohammed?
Yeah, I'm glad they're bringing him back, Eddie. He had his ups and downs, I guess, but he was a decent player for us. So give him another year, see what happens with all these additions we did to our defense. Hopefully, he can make a difference, so we can maybe give him a longer deal, long-term deal.
Yeah. Well, he is 28. Like, depending on what Singleton, I think Singleton's going to be 31 this year. Sherrod's going to be 29, I believe. So it's only a 2-year difference. I don't know. It just depends. He's a great special teamer. Sherrod. Like, I don't think he played that great last year when he had to play after Singleton went down, but he's a magnificent special teamer. I would love to keep him there, but it just depends on what his price tag is after this year. And finally, the most recent, signing by the Broncos, which a lot of Broncos country were happy about this because this does give you a little bit more flexibility in the draft. And that is Jacksonville Jaguars tight end Evan Ingram signing with the Broncos on a 2-year, $23 million deal with $16.5 million guaranteed. What were your thoughts on this initially, Mohammed?
Oh my God, Eddie! I mean, we just like the inside linebacker, we did not have a true tight end in a while, and now when I heard Evan Ingram was released, and that first day in free agency, and I heard that he's in the building, I'm like, remember we talked about it? I was like, do not let man leave. Please just give him whatever he needs. And then he left and then he came back, and I'm glad he signed with the Broncos. Now we have a threat on the red zone, Eddie. They have to worry about selling, they have to worry about Evan Ingram. He's a really good tight end. And same thing, Eddie. Like, I cannot believe we got him for this price, for this much money, right? And the best thing about it, Eddie, is he actually went to the Chargers and he picked the Broncos. That makes it even sweeter than it already is. So kudos to the Broncos.
Yeah, I was kind of just trolling someone earlier about that. I was like, yeah, no, I'm like, Evan Ingram wants to come to a winning organization. He wants to come to a winning coach and a winning organization. And don't get me wrong, like I understand Jim Harbaugh has done some good things whenever he was in the NFL with the 49ers, but come on. We talked about this on this show. He can't develop a QB. Whenever he got to San Francisco, he had already, solid or good Alex Smith and a good roster. What did Sean Payton do whenever he got his first head coaching job? He went to the freaking Saints that were called the Aints, no quarterback, took a shot on a quarterback that nobody wanted in Drew Brees, and turned him into a Super Bowl Hall of Fame winner. Same with Sean Payton. Sean Payton's a Super Bowl winning head coach. What's Jim Harbaugh? Crickets. I didn't hear anything. Like, he hasn't won he made one. He just never won it. And then now, like, we talked about this, like, you had the shot, Jim, to come to Denver. Granted, yes, I understand the quarterback position at the time when we were going through our last head coaching hiring was not great. You had this old quarterback that was most likely washed, which is, in my opinion, now. And no one wanted this job. He's like, I'm not attaching myself to that. What's Sean Payton do? Comes in here, gets the best out of Russ, gets rid of him, and gets his own quarterback and develops him. And now Sean Payton and Bo Nix are, pretty much gods in Broncos country for doing what they've done over the last couple of years. And what's Jim Harbaugh did? Go to another team that has a pretty damn good roster in the Chargers, with a quarterback that was already developed. I'm sorry. Jim Harbaugh, to me, is not Sean Payton. Sean Payton is a better head coach. He's a Super Bowl winner. He can develop a quarterback, and the Broncos are an actual winning organization. Like, this is what I think changed Evan Ingram's mind. He walked around the Broncos facility and was like, Super Bowl trophies. He goes to the Chargers facility. Dude, where's your trophies?
That's messed up, eh?
And he's like, nah, I'm going to go to Denver, man, because they actually know how to win there.
So, but Eddie, I want to add to that is like Jim Harbaugh, he loves to run the ball, so the scheme actually matters. Sean Payton is going to actually throw the ball to you, right? So why would you go there? Because they like to run the ball, so you're not going to get any much, and you really can't block, that much. So
yeah, that I mean, I'm not sitting here saying what I'm saying is the truth. I mean, it might be with like the winning portion of it, maybe slightly, but yeah, you're right. Like, why would Evan Ingram or any wide receiver? Like, I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier, the Chargers did resign an ex-wide receiver of theirs, Mike Williams. They signed him today just to bring in another wide receiver. It's like, if you're a wide receiver or a tight end that wants to go out and catch passes, you're not going to, especially now, the Chargers signed Najee Harris. You know they're going to be trying to run the crap out of that ball next year. Like, if you're a wide receiver that wants to get touches and actually wants to be involved, or a tight end that wants to get touches and get involved in the passing game, why would you go to a run-first team? Why? Yeah, I'm not saying you're not going to get any touches, but you're not going to get as many as you want. You're not people are going to look at you on like a Chargers team. Like the Chargers make the playoffs, or God forbid they win the Super Bowl. It's going to be because of the run game. Do you think the tight ends or receivers are going to get any kind of credit for the Chargers winning the Super Bowl? No, it's going to be because most likely probably Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, and the run game. That's it. That's all it's going to be talked about. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's just funny to me with that. I'm glad Evan Ingram signed with the Broncos. That, and talking about Evan Ingram, I don't know if you've seen this. Evan Ingram, right after he signed his contract, because he actually officially signed today with the Broncos.
Okay.
But immediately after signing, he posted this picture, or this video. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's the Joker.
I love it.
Pretty much saying, I ain't got no problem being the Joker. Let's do this thing, Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Broncos country, get wild.
Yeah, that's good. I'm
but
really
before we get into any more topics, I want to get into our comments because we got a lot of comments in here. A lot of people coming in tonight. First one is from Michael Ronquillo. He said, "Good evening, Ed and Muhammad." What's up, Michael? Thanks for joining us tonight, man. Really appreciate it. Another one from Michael. He said, "Wide receiver Cooper Kupp could make his decision tonight." Yeah, we kind of talked about that before the show. He pretty much said that he doesn't want to drag this out. He wants to make this decision as fast as possible. And on X, Twitter, whatever you guys want to call it, everybody's saying the same thing. Like, you're probably going to have a decision by tonight from Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts on that, Mohammed?
Eddie, that would be the cherry on the top. I mean, come on, my God, man. And like I said, we were talking about, Evan Ingram. Same thing. Why wouldn't you want to come to the Broncos, Eddie? Unless it's a money thing. But if you're trying to win, if you're trying to get catches, if you're trying to be in a, I guess heavy passing team, that would be the Broncos, because they're gonna be passing the ball. They're not gonna be running it as much. So.
No, you're going to get a lot of touches here. Like, I mean, you still got Sutton. You're going to have Ingram. You're going to have Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, maybe even Troy Franklin. But I guarantee you, I'll say this right now. Cooper Kupp signs with the Broncos. He will be wide receiver 2 behind Sutton. So, but we got another comment here from Darker Spade. Yeah, go Broncos. Thanks, man. Appreciate your comment. Everybody get your comments in tonight so we can get through them tonight, and let us know what you guys feel about all these free agency signings. We want to hear from you also. The next comment is from Michael again. He's like, the Raiders signed running back Raheem Morris. Yeah, I saw that earlier. I'm not too worried. Like I said, if Shador falls to 6, they're probably going to take Shador. If Shador gets drafted in the top 5, I have a feeling the Raiders are going to take Ashton Genty. That's just the way I feel about it. What say you, Mohammed?
Yeah, I hope they don't get Shador, Eddie. I hope he doesn't drop. But I saw this. I saw this earlier, about Raheem Moore. But yeah, can't wait for the draft. I don't know how that's gonna turn.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Like I said, we got a little over a month left. And speaking of which, I don't know if you've seen who the Chiefs signed earlier today.
Hmm.
The Chiefs signed Gardner Minshew.
Ooh, I'm terrified.
Hey, Raiders, pass some of that bad juju on to the freaking Chiefs, please.
It's they already got that. They already got some. Eddie.
We'll
They
pass
gotta be
more on
terrible.
to them. How about that? Make them
Yeah,
horrible.
they gotta be terrible next season. That they're not. They're lucky if they make the playoffs. Come on.
Ooh, Muhammad coming in with it. They might not make the playoffs. Another comment here from Michael. He said, "Long snapper Mitch signed a 3-year deal with the Broncos." Okay, yeah, I couldn't remember like all these. I got all these deals floating in my head right now, but I can't remember what the exact numbers are off the top of my head. But yeah, we got him around for at least 3 more years to be our long snapper. I think he's only like 27 or 28 too. He's not very old, at least not for a long snapper, I would assume. Another one here from Michael. DJ Jones signed a 3-year deal with the Broncos too. Yeah. Once again, like I said, I got all these numbers floating around in my head. I can't memorize all of them and get the accurate stuff, but that's good. They solidified this defense. Now we know next year, both Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, and Nick Benito are going to be wanting contract extensions next offseason. Now, I don't know what they're going to do. They'll probably extend Zach Allen, most likely, and they'll most likely extend Nick Benito. So that leaves John Franklin Myers as the odd man out. They might, draft that position next year. What are your thoughts on that, Mohammed?
Yeah, because I know we're gonna have a lot more room with the cap next off season, Eddie, but it's still not gonna be enough. We can't really pay everybody, right? So
No,
the two, yeah, that would make sense for them to pay Zach Allen and maybe
Benito.
yeah, and then Benito, right? So and we wait for him. You wait for that third. Maybe like you said, maybe they're gonna go ahead and draft one this season. You know.
They might draft one like the third. Like I said, running back one in round 1, tight end probably round 2, maybe round 3. They take a defensive end, to let him sit behind Franklin and Zach Allen for a year. That way he can learn. Maybe be a rotational piece. Because I guarantee you Zach Allen's going to get locked up next year. I guarantee you Nick Benito is going to get locked up next year. And then you also got Riley Moss coming up. Next year, Jaquan McMillan's probably going to be coming up. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Probably Mike McGlinchey's going to be coming up here in another year or two. Luke Wattenberg is going to be coming up. Ben Powers. Cortland Sutton, I think after this year, possibly could be gone. He could be a cap casualty so the Broncos could sign these other guys. Actually, if I remember right, I think I read something the other day. It says next offseason, the Broncos will have over $100 million in cap space.
Nice.
So maybe they do. Maybe they do. I mean, I don't know if it's true. Fact check me, guys, and let me know because that's just something I saw on X. I don't know if it's true or not. But if it is, they're probably going to bring a lot of these guys back. Honestly, who knows? But Michael in here with another one. He's like, swing tackle Mike Parrott. He signed a 1-year deal. Okay, that's good. You got him at least for another year. They'll probably draft another tackle somewhere in the draft, probably in the later rounds. See, maybe they could develop him, to be a backup or maybe even a starter if Mike McGlinchey or Garrett Bowles wind up, leaving or retiring. I mean, Bowles, I think he signed like a 3-year deal during the season this year. So he's probably going to be at least around for another 2 years, I would assume.
Yeah, that's probably his final contract. I don't see him playing past that.
No.
After,
like by the time this contract ends, I think Bowles will be, 35 or 36 by the time this contract ends. Let me know. I think Bowles is like 32 right now. He'll be 33 by the start of the season next year. Michael in here with another one. He said linebacker Drake Greenlaw is tight end Travis Kelce's nightmare before his injury. Yeah, he is. He's not even a Travis Kelce nightmare. He's a tight end nightmare. Like even Brock Bowers. Good luck. That's all I can say.
Finally, we have somebody to get them tight ends, Eddie.
Yeah, someone to cover them tight ends. But yeah. I'm gonna, go against you here a little bit, Michael. I'm not worried about Travis Kelce anymore. I'm not. He's washed. He's done. The guy literally, yeah, he had 97 receptions last year, but only 3 touchdowns. He had 9 less touchdowns than the year prior. And I'm sorry, but when you see a player on the field in the biggest stage, Super Bowl, in the Super Bowl, literally give up. Like that's what we saw in Super Bowl 59 with Travis Kelce. He gave up. The guy is done. He doesn't want. I don't even understand why he's coming back this year. I really don't. He's done. His body, to me, him quitting, whatever. That's whatever thing. Maybe his body's like, Travis, we're done. We can't do. You're 36, bro. We can't do this anymore. And his body probably told him, like, Travis, it's time. But yeah, he's going to come back for another year. And the main excuse I heard for that was, you can't go out as Travis Kelce losing in the Super Bowl looking that bad. Yeah, you can. Because what's the alternative? You come back next year with the division getting so much better and your body literally telling you it's done.
And it's going to get worse.
Come back and look even worse the next year.
Yeah. Eddie, like seriously, like you're right. Like the way he played last season, I just feel like his heart is not with football anymore. He doesn't have it in him. So I don't get why that's what I was telling you. I thought he was going to retire, but I guess he's coming back for another season for whatever reason. It's not like they're going to make the playoffs, right?
Well, this is my thing. It's like, dude, you made all of the money you could in the NFL. You're going to be a Hall of Famer. You're going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Travis Kelce. You got a superstar girlfriend, and you got a podcast that you're, making good money on. Retire. Go enjoy your life, man. You got and this is coming from a Broncos fan who hates the freaking Chiefs. Like, I despise them. But I respect what Travis Kelce has done. And he's done enough. He has nothing left to prove. Just retire and go enjoy your life, bro. Seriously.
Yeah, 5 years, gonna be getting a gold jacket. Just
your body is pretty much telling you to retire. You're gonna go out there and hurt yourself. Like, I mean, I don't think I hope it doesn't happen. I wouldn't wish injury on anybody. But it's like, dude, just stop. You're gonna ruin your, I wouldn't say ruin his legacy, but you're gonna go out looking even worse next year. That's just my opinion. So I'm not Travis Kelce. I don't know how he feels about it, but that's just my opinion. Last one here from Michael. Guys, get these comments in so we can go over your guys' comments. We want to know what your guys' thoughts are on free agency and what you think the Broncos are going to do in the draft. So go ahead and get your comments in, guys. Michael in here with another one. I read that the Broncos and Chargers offered the same NFL contract to tight end Evan Ingram, but he chose the Broncos over the Chargers. He chose winning over losing. Plain and simple. That's somewhat how I feel about it. Like, the scheme, like Muhammad said, is probably more accurate to that statement, because why would you want to go to a run-heavy first team when you're a tight end that wants to get touches? You're going to get that in Denver with Sean Payton. I mean, look at last year, for God's sake. Bo Nix, a rookie, not that great of weapons outside maybe Cortland Sutton. And I remember at the beginning of the season when Bo Nix was kind of struggling, I'm sitting here yelling at my TV, just like a lot of Broncos country, like, run the damn ball, help Bo Nix out. Sean's like, nah, I gotta do that. I'm gonna prove all to you guys that Bo Nix is the truth. And they passed more than they ran last year. So yeah, any guy that receiver, tight end, that wants to catch the ball and get their touches would, in their right mind, I mean, unless the money is astronomical, but as Michael points out here, it was basically the same contract. Wouldn't you want to go to a place where you actually get the play rather than where you're just going to be sitting there blocking every freaking play for a run game? What are your thoughts, Mohammed?
Yeah, I honestly think it's scheme. He probably sat with both coaches and listened to what their plans are, like what they're gonna, how they're gonna, use him, right? So he really preferred to be with Sean Payton. I would have chosen the same coach, to be honest with you, Eddie. Especially if the money was right. Like if the money is the same, why would I go to a team where they can run the ball and I'm barely gonna get any touches? It just doesn't make any sense. And the guy wants to win. He wants to get touches and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to win, go to the Broncos. You want to lose, go to the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I like Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert to me, and this is me being 100% honest. Like, well, maybe about Justin Herbert in a sense. Like the Chargers as a franchise and Justin Herbert, they're choke artist. Until they prove me otherwise, they're choke artist. And Jim Harbaugh, like I will agree he's a good coach, but he's not. There's like good coaches, then there's like great coaches. Sean Payton, Andy Reid, all them guys. Coaches that win Super Bowls are great to me. I don't care if that Super Bowl was like 15 years ago because it's already hard enough to win a Super Bowl. He did it with a team that was literally one of the worst teams in the NFL whenever he took the job with a quarterback. I will say this until I'm blue in the face. He took a team that was called the Ains, probably getting ready to leave New Orleans, that literally couldn't do anything with a quarterback that nobody wanted, and he won a damn Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh inherited a 49ers team that was good, who had Alex Smith, and then he inherits a Chargers team that had Justin Herbert and a solid roster. Like, now, it's still time will tell what the Chargers do, but like I said, until they prove it to me, I'm going to say they're choke artists. And also, and another thing, I think Sean Payton's got more balls. Excuse my language. He's got more balls than Jim Harbaugh. It took real cojones for me personally for a coach to take this job and do what Sean Payton did with the Russell Wilson thing, drafting a rookie and having this team in the playoffs in year one with a rookie.
Because it's a challenge, Eddie. It's not like the Chargers. It's easy. You got the quarterback. You got everything figured out. It's easy. You just go in there. You just build around the quarterback.
Yep. It doesn't seem. It's funny to me that people want to sit here and say, "Oh, Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton, they're both really good. They're about the same." I'm like, no, they're not. One's a Super Bowl winner. One can develop a QB, and one's actually got the balls to rebuild a roster and cut somebody that caused the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history because he wasn't playing up to Sean Payton standards. Like, I'm sorry. I do not agree with that sentiment that Jim Harbaugh is the same tier coach as Sean Payton. I don't do it. So hate me if you want, but that's the reason why. Next comment here is from Michael Gaines. My favorite signing was the linebacker Dre Greenlaw. Yeah, that was a good signing. Honestly, I'm not gonna say my favorite signing was Evan Ingram signing. It really was. Because what was the one thing we talked about all offseason? Like this defense, even last year before Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw, they were a top 5 unit in the NFL. Now, I'm not going to complain because these two moves on defense made the defense that much more better. But the biggest gripes throughout Broncos country this entire season is we need a run game and we need a freaking tight end and maybe even another wide receiver. That's why I like the Ingram sighting so much because like I showed you guys the picture earlier. Ingram is embracing that Joker role that Sean Payton wants to use in this offense. What was your favorite signing, Mohammed?
I kind of agree with Michael. I know what you're saying, Eddie, but like this inside linebacker thing has been something that's been kind of bothering me with the Broncos defense for a long time. And we finally have one that I can actually say this is a real inside linebacker. But I do kind of see your point about Evan Ingram too. And as far as getting a tight end in there.
Well, and trust me, this is by no stretch me hating on the defense or defenses in general, because defenses do win championships. But my thing is like over the last 10 years, 9 years, whatever, since we've won Super Bowl 50, the Broncos have had a top defensive unit almost every year, like a top 10 defensive unit almost every single season. We haven't had weapons, an offensive line, or a quarterback in those years. Like, we didn't have great enough weapons. We didn't have a great enough offensive line or quarterback for that matter. And for me, now knowing that we have our franchise QB, we have our guy of the future. And seeing what he did last year with the least amount of talent at tight end and running back, dude, this is why I wanted Ingram. This is why I want a tight end in the draft. This is why I want a running back in the draft. You get Bo Nix, a solid tight end, which we know Sean Payton loves his tight ends. Guys that can, create separation over the middle. You give Bo Nix a run game where he ain't got to scramble and run and be the leading rusher almost every damn game during the season. And you actually have the threat of the run. It opens up things more downfield for Bo Nix. And my personal favorite. Bo Nix can actually see over the damn offensive line, Russ. But with that said, it's like, you know, I've been so starved for offense that, don't get me wrong, I don't think Evan Ingram's like the greatest tight end ever. But the fact that we're actually getting weapons on our offense and we have a young, promising QB that's going to be our future, dude, that's why I think the Evan Ingram signing is even more like that's my favorite because of that reason. Broncos country has been so starved for offense for so many years that, and I've said this before in the past too, why do you think the NFL is so catered to the offensive side of the ball nowadays? Because people buy tickets, people buy merch, people go to games to see their superstar quarterback, to see the offense put up a buttload of points. No one gives a damn about defense. I mean, the teams do, but as far as the fans of the fan base, they want to see high-scoring games. They want to see their superstar quarterback go out there and throw deep balls almost every play, which is not really a thing that's going to happen. But that's what the average fan wants from the NFL. And now that we have the quarterback, we have the head coach, and now we're getting weapons on this offense. The Broncos averaged about 25 points a game last year. I'm going to bump that number up. They're going to be averaging about 28, 29 points this year, especially after I see what they do in the draft with a running back and another tight end and maybe possibly a receiver, depending on what happens with Kupp. This team's going to be putting a massive amount of points, and this defense is going to be so – like they were top 5 last year. They're going to be even better this year with the additions on defense. No one's going to be able to score on us, and we're going to be racking up points like crazy. It's going to be a fun season, Broncos country. It really is. So before we move on to the next topic, like, comment, subscribe on this video, guys. Please get your comments in. Like I said, we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your thoughts and what you guys think about the whole free agency and what you want to see the Broncos do in the draft. But moving on, let's talk about some other free agency moves, like not from the Broncos, but from teams all around the NFL. Mohammed, what was your favorite move you seen by a team, and what was the move that made you laugh the most from a team that made a free agency signing?
Well, I guess my favorite one was I'm kind of happy for Sam Darnold that he went to the Seahawks. You know, I think that was good for the Seahawks to get a decent quarterback. It kind of made sense to me, Eddie. The one that made me laugh really is DK Metcalf going to the Steelers, Eddie, because I'm like, you don't even have a quarterback, and why are you giving him all this money? Like, it does not make any sense to me. Like, who is going to be throwing the ball to him? Like, it didn't make any sense, Eddie. Like, I don't know, and I don't know why the Raiders. They could have went for Sam Darnold, but they decided to go get Geno Smith, and that was really stupid by the Raiders. I mean, I'm glad they didn't get Sam Darnold, right? But yeah, this whole thing with DK Metcalf going to the Steelers, just like if the Commanders had traded for him, that makes sense, you know. But you don't even have a quarterback, but you're gonna go and yeah, that didn't make sense to me.
Well, because the Steelers, I think they're in the from my understanding, from what I've been reading, the Steelers don't want Russ back. They want Aaron Rodgers. They lost out. We heard reports before free agency that the Steelers wanted to bring back Justin Fields. Well, we know what happened with that. He went to the New York Jets, which I'm happy for. Like, I hope Justin Fields has a better career up there. But if I had to pick my favorite move from this entire free agency class from another team other than the Broncos, I would have to say, honestly, my favorite one, the one I liked the most, was probably Justin Fields. Like, he's going to a team. I mean, he's going to, I guess you'd say a dysfunctional organization, but I think Anthony Glenn's going to turn that organization around. I really do. I think he's going to turn it around. I think Justin Fields, I don't know who the Jets OC is over there now, but I feel like I'm not going to say Justin Fields is 100% going to have a resurgence in his career, but I'm eagerly wanting to watch the Jets this year and see how Justin Fields does. I'm not going to argue. I want to see what Sam Darnold does, see if he can repeat what he did last year in Seattle. That'll be fun. But the one move that made me laugh the most. I know a lot of people are going to think I'm going to say the Gardner Minshew thing, but that's not it. That really isn't. The one move that made me laugh was the idiotic Chiefs trading away Joe Thuney, whatever his name is. Like, they literally went out. I can't remember if they traded or I think they signed. They signed a backup tackle from San Francisco. You
And you
signed
know
a
what it
backup
sounds like to
tackle.
me? Like they're trying
Huh.
to sabotage their team purposely. Like that like no sane person would have done what they've been doing. Seriously. And I love
No. A sane person knowing that your offensive line is a problem and the reason why you lost the Super Bowl, and Thuney was your best offensive lineman out of any center, guard position, tackle. He was the best you had. He played both he played both guard and tackle. And you let what baffles me, what freaking baffles the hell out of me. You say you let him walk because you couldn't afford him. But yet you turn around, you restructure Mahomes' contract, which I did see, and you extend Nick Bolton. Now, I understand Nick Bolton's younger, but he's a linebacker. Yes, linebacker is important, but it's not as important as offensive line, especially for Patrick Mahomes when you just saw him get his ass kicked in the Super Bowl because he had no protection. If I'm a Chiefs fan right now, I'm just like, what the hell are we doing? But the fact that I'm a Broncos fan who absolutely despises the Chiefs, I'm just sitting here like, you guys suck.
Anytime they make a signing or they trade, I'm just laughing at them, Eddie. Like I don't know what they're doing.
And then, like I said, you could also I know Chief fans are gonna say you don't cut Kelsey. He's a Chiefs legend. Understandable. But if my franchise QB was getting destroyed in the Super Bowl because of a lack of an offensive line, and if you would have got rid of Travis, like Joe Thuney would only saved you $20 million. Travis Kelce, if you would have cut him, would have saved you $17 million. Like a $3 million difference. I'm sorry, Travis Kelce. Thank you for your service. You've done a lot. You're a legend in Chiefs, lore, whatever. But we're going to have to let you go, dude. We need to keep this money so we can re-sign Thuney to protect Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce is a tight end that literally gave up because his body gave up on him in the Super Bowl. That was not the same player all season as he was in years past. And you very easily could have got rid of him and kept Thuney and at least kept your interior, because you still got Smith at one guard position. You could have had freaking Thuney at the other guard. You got Creed Humphrey at center. You would just had to solve your tackle positions.
That's it.
Now, like I said, they got a guy they drafted that's going to take – I mean, they still got Smith. They still got Creed Humphrey. So they got those two positions solidified. But it's like you got a young guy. I think it was a third-round pick for the Chiefs a few years back that hasn't really seen any starting snaps, going to start at guard where Thuney was. You signed a backup left tackle from the 49ers to put as your starting tackle. And I don't even know who the right tackle is. Like, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm pissed. I'd be like, okay, so I guess Mahomes is just going to get murdered next year. Especially now.
Oh my God, we're going to be sacked.
You still got Max Crosby in the division. You got Khalil Mack, who was a damn good pass rusher last year. And you got the Broncos, who literally just, they got Nick McNeil. Like, the Broncos had the most sacks last season. The Broncos defense had 63 sacks. It led the NFL last year. And now they brought back their, nose tackle. They're going to have that same defense together again. And what makes this pass rush even more deadly now is when you had Strenat out there playing and you had, PJ Locke back there playing, maybe you get like a little window here and there over the middle of the field or on the back half because they get burned. Case in point, like, remember that first play against the Raiders week 5 last year where PJ Locke got burned in man coverage and Brock Bowers went up, jumped, got it, took off to the house?
Yeah.
Like, you got Hufanga back there now. You got Drake Greenlaw. Those positions, that space is not, it might be there a little, but it's not going to be there as much. And if the field's covered and it takes Mahomes an extra second or two to get rid of the ball because the coverage is so good, he's going to get murdered, especially with their offensive line being as bad as it's going to be and the Broncos defense being as lethal as it's going to be again this year because they're coming back. Dumbass Chiefs organization. Don't know where to put their money. I don't know what to say to that other than laugh at it. Um, but let's talk about some other side. I don't know if we touched on it last week, but of course, I want to get your thoughts on this, Mohammed. Geno Smith traded to the Raiders for a third round pick. Now, I know you said earlier, why didn't you just go after Sam Darnold? Well, we all know the answer to that. It's because, Pete Carroll's there. He wants Geno Smith. That was his quarterback in Seattle, and he wants him in Las Vegas. What were your initial thoughts whenever you saw that they signed Geno Smith?
I mean, I laughed and I said, "Good." I'm glad they didn't, because he doesn't really scare me. I mean, he's a decent quarterback, but I'm not too worried about it. That he like it didn't. I mean, it. I understand why they did because Pete Carroll really wanted his quarterback and stuff. He's more familiar and stuff. But what are you gonna do? You're not gonna go to the playoffs. I don't see that happening. You're gonna be a little bit more competitive than what I think, depending on what they do in the draft too, Eddie. Somehow they get Ashton Genty.
Yeah, like I mean, don't get me wrong. I think their offense is going to be a little bit better than last year. Like you're going to have Brock Bowers going into his second year. You draft Ashton Genty. You're going to have a good run game. But the Broncos, now that they brought back DJ Jones, they're going to still be good at stopping the run. And then you got Drake Greenlaw up there, and you'll have Singleton back. So the run game's not going to really probably go anywhere for you. And Geno Smith, he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to lie, but with this Broncos secondary, you ain't going to be throwing nowhere.
Nope.
So this Broncos defense, it's going to be hard to run on us next year with the two additions that we made with our defense already being as good as it was last year. It's going to be hard to run on us, and it's going to be hard to pass on us.
Yeah, all I would have to say, good luck. Seriously, when you're playing Broncos,
good luck to the Raiders.
Yeah.
They did, as Michael said earlier, they did sign Raheem Morris, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm not. Like I think he's over 30, if I remember right. Raheem Morris is like in his 30s now. So I'm not too concerned with that. Trying to think of some other signs. Like I said, Justin Fields, Sam Darnold. There was a couple other ones, man, that were thrown out there today. And we saw DeAndre Hopkins go to the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, he went to the Ravens. I mean, all in all, this free agency class, not just for the Broncos, but just as a whole, has been fun. Like I can't wait to see some of these players on their new teams next year and what they do. I mean, I'm pretty sure like we're probably going to see some more trades leading up to the draft because I know the Ravens still have Mark Andrews on the block. The Eagles got Dallas Goddard on the block. Michael Pitts, I've seen his name mentioned. I don't know if the Falcons are going to trade him now that with Penix starting out there this year. They might keep him for a weapon for Penix, but it's been a fun offseason, guys. It really has so far. I'm excited to see what happens. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk on and get your thoughts on. The Eagles have lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They've lost Sweat. Like, they've lost some key pieces that helped them win that Super Bowl. What are your thoughts on that, Mohammed?
I mean, Eddie, like a buddy of mine is an Eagles fan, and I've been talking to him about it, and they lost a lot of players, but that's what happens after you go to the Super Bowl, because you really can't pay everybody. Everybody's going to be asking for, especially if they're coming up with a contract, they're going to be asking for a lot of money, fresh out of a Super Bowl. So you're really not going to be able to keep everybody. Same thing happened to the Broncos after the Super Bowl. So that's what happens. They still might make a push on the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be as good as they were last season with all these players.
Yeah, I think they take a step back. I think they'll probably still win their division. I mean, maybe the Commanders sneak past them next year because I like what the Commanders are doing with their young guy. They traded for Debo. They brought in a few other pieces. Like I think the Commanders. I mean, I think I still think the Eagles might pull it out next year, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders win that division next year. Honestly, Cowboys they're gonna suck. The Giants. The Giants have been in talks with maybe signing Russell Wilson, maybe signing Aaron Rodgers, which seems kind of weird to me because they got the third pick in the draft. This is my thing. We know that the Browns, they talked to Russell today. Okay. The Browns also traded for Kenny Pickett this offseason. They traded DTR for Kenny Pickett. They're talking to Russell Wilson. And the top 3 picks in the draft this year are the Titans, the Browns, the Giants. Yeah. We know the Titans are going to go Cam Ward. We already know that. Now the Browns, that's an interesting situation because if they sign, Russ, or they say, hey, we're just going to go into the season with Kenny Pickett, because they're not going to be good this year anyway. They still got a few years before they can get out of the Deshaun deal. Then they might take the best player available at that point at pick 2, which could be Travis Hunter. They take him, they worry about quarterback. Or if they sign Russ, they don't take a quarterback. Then that leaves the Giants. Well, say Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson decide to go to New York, then they got their quarterback, for the year, maybe 2, 3, depending on who it is they take. And then you're sitting there like, okay, well, Shador just didn't get taken. And that's my worry, because then after that, it's like, well, the Raiders, I think after that, are the next team that needs a quarterback. And we know Shador and his dad wants him to go to Las Vegas. We know the Raiders want him. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible that even if the Browns or the Giants take Aaron or, Russ on a 1-2 year deal, whatever it is, they still might draft Shador. They don't think he's quite ready yet to sit behind Rodgers or sit behind Russ and let him learn for a year or 2 and then let him go out there and play. It's going to be fun, dude. It really is. Like, I'm excited. And the Patriots, man, they went ham this offseason. I think they had over $100 million, dude. They went ham, dude. Mike Vrabel's not effing around. He's building that roster to compete.
He's spending that money.
I still think they're a year away from doing that. They signed some pieces that they can, work with, but they still got, see what, I mean, Drake May only played like half a season, if that, last year. Not saying he's not going to, he can't be great right out of the gate, but I think it's going to take him a little bit more time. They're going to still have to add some more pieces through the draft after this year. I think they're still a year away, especially in the AFC, because the AFC is stacked. But if I had to guess right now, and we kind of talked about this a few weeks ago, I'm putting it out there right now, and I've already talked about it earlier. Well, 2 things. The first thing I talked about is the Chiefs are not winning this division this year. They're not doing it. I already bet money with my uncle back home, who's a Chiefs fan. He's like, the Chiefs will win the division easily. Blah, the Broncos in charge of it. All right, bet. Here's $100. Let's put $100 on it. I bet you $100. The Chiefs do not win the division. And in the back of my mind, like, I wasn't going to make this bet because, I don't want my uncle to lose all that money. But I strongly believe the Broncos are going to win this division this year. The Broncos had 10 wins last year with that big dead cap hit, a rookie quarterback. Excuse me, god dang. And they made the playoffs at 10-7. I think with this offseason building like the way they are, this team is going to win an additional 2 to 3 games. I say 12 to 13 wins for this team this year, Division 1. Because you know what? Yeah, the Chargers swept us last year, but you know what? That's not going to happen again.
Nope.
The Chargers are not going to get that lucky again. They got lucky. The Broncos broke other, things this year. They broke, beating the Raiders, the playoff scenario, a winning season. Next year, Chargers, your asses are ours. You're not beating us. I'll tell you that much right now. So, but the last thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here, Muhammad, because we're over an hour, is what are your thoughts on Rodgers and Russ? Like, where do you think they're going to sign personally, or do you think they're going to sign at all, or just retire?
I know we talked about this before we went live, Eddie. Rodgers, I guess, has more market than Russell Wilson. I think he might sign with the Steelers. Talking about Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to go with the Steelers. As far as Russ, I don't know. The only team that's actually showed any interest is the Browns, right? And they haven't signed him, so I don't know, Eddie. He might just sit and just wait for somebody. If it's up to me, I think they both should just retire. but obviously they're not. They still want to play for whatever reason. But yeah,
Well,
I think the Steelers are probably going to get Rodgers.
I've been watching a lot of of these shows today, and they're saying that the Steelers are idiots. They need to bring back Russ. But the reason why is because he does, like, after last year, he has some chemistry with George Pickens, and he's got a lot of chemistry with freaking DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
And those are two 50-50 big ball guys down the field. Where's Russ thrive? Getting out the pocket and throwing deep downfield, the moon ball. If it's not a, check down or a screen or something like that, then what's Russ doing? He ain't throwing over the middle. He's getting out of the pocket, throwing deep downfield. And that's where Metcalf and Russ are dangerous together. But they said it came out earlier the Steelers are not interested in bringing back Russ. It's like, well, okay, well, what happens if, Rodgers decides to go to now a lot of people talked about this, and I think it's stupid because this to me would stunt the growth of your young guy. But people are talking about Rodgers going to the Vikings. Following the Brett Favre thing, which would be freaking hilarious.
That would be so weird, Eddie. I don't see that happening.
I don't either, but I'm just saying that's out there in the stratosphere right now that the Vikings are considering it, and so is Rodgers. I'm like, why would you do that? You got a young guy you drafted last year. I mean, the only thing I could think of is maybe because, they think maybe his injury might have a setback, maybe. But also for Rodgers, like Rodgers and Russ both, the Vikings, if they wanted to have me, the Vikings is where I'd want to go. I'd want to go there more than the Steelers, the Giants, or the Browns, because at least the Vikings are going to be contenders.
Yeah, definitely.
They got the roster. They got the receiver. They literally just added so much talent to their defense. And they added some pieces on the offensive line. Like, I would want to go to freaking the Vikings. But at the same time, like I said, if I'm the Vikings, why the hell would I do that? I got a young rookie or a young guy that I want to see if he's got it. I understand, but that's why you need to go out and sign because like Russ and Aaron, they're not going to want to be backups wherever they go. They're going to want to start. Mm-hmm. We know that. That's why it would be smart for you to go out and sign somebody that would be okay with being a backup. I mean, I don't know if there's hardly any names out there now. Like, I know Jimmy Garoppolo went back to the Rams. Gardner Minshew went to the Chiefs. Geno probably wants to be a starter too. But it's like, maybe you trade for another. I mean, you could have signed Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
After seeing what Kevin O'Connell did with Sam Darnold last year, I would have took a flyer on, Zach Wilson, brought him in. That way, if JJ's not ready to go, at least you got, Zach there to maybe help you keep afloat. Mm-hmm. And Zach's not going to be thinking he's going to be the starter day one. You know that. He was the third stringer here in Denver. But I don't know, man. Like, if I was Rodgers, like, the Vikings is intriguing, but like the Vikings for Rodgers the Vikings for Rodgers or the Steelers for Rodgers would be the two ones I'd want to go to. And actually, I was watching Colin Cowherd earlier. Like I said, I really don't like most of his takes, but there's a few I agree with. He's like, most people label the Giants as a really bad football team. They're not. They got a really, really good defense. I mean, you got Brian Burns. You got, I forgot the other guy's name, the other pass rusher they got on there. They got a good secondary. They got their, franchise left tackle. They got a good receiver one in Malik Neighbors. They got that Tracy kid, the running back, who was actually solid last year. Like, he pretty much this to me kind of ruffled my feathers a little, but he's like, the Giants are basically the Steelers of the NFC. Good defense, have, at least one solid weapon, and they have a good left tackle that could protect Aaron's blind side. And the biggest point he made was that they have an offensive-minded head coach in Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
So he laid out some fantastic points where I just sat there for a minute. I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe Rodgers to New York Giants wouldn't be that bad. Well, it wouldn't be that bad for us either. So, but if I'm actually Aaron or you know, Russ, I'd be begging for the Vikings. Only like I said, they got a better offensive line. They got a really good defense now. They got a good offensive minded head coach in Kevin O'Connell, who, pretty much revitalized Sam Darnold's career with the best receiver in the game and probably the best number 2 in the game, and Jordan Addison. They brought back Dalvin Cook, who's a buddy of Rodgers anyway from the time in Green Bay. Or not Dalvin Cook, I'm sorry, Aaron Jones. It's like, yeah, but again, if I was the Vikings, why the hell would I do that and jeopardize my young QB?
Yeah,
and
because Rodgers is going to want to start.
Yeah, him and Russ both are going to want to start. Neither one are going to want to sit on the bench. I mean, people talk about last year, like, well, Russ was on the bench. Yeah, he was hurt.
But why are they taking their sweet time, Eddie? Why nobody signed him yet? Doesn't make sense. Like, if that's their quarterback, you think it's him? No, I'm talking about Rodgers.
Oh, Rodgers doing the same shit he always does.
So it's him, right? Taking his time and trying to decide.
He's like, I haven't, like, remember a few years ago when he did that stupid darkness retreat and he was making the Packers wait forever for his decision. He waited until like right around the time free agency started. Because remember, it was the day free agency opened. It was March 7th because it was the day the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson. Like the Aaron Rodgers news came out, oh, I'm going back to the Packers.
He's such a weird guy.
And then like an hour later, the Rush trade the Rush trade thing broke, him coming to the Broncos. Aaron Rodgers knows this is probably going to be his last year of attention, so he's trying to gather all the attention he can get now. That's what I keep hearing. Like, if you want to play football, Rodgers, go to the team. Like, and honestly, unlike the Jets, where Saleh really didn't have any control over anything, because I think Woody Johnson, he pretty much, whenever he traded for Aaron Rodgers, he gave Rodgers all the power. Saleh was just a pawn. Like, it was not his team. You go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, who's in charge there. It's Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin ain't going to put up with that crap. He'd be like, Rodgers, sit down, shut up, and do your job.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Kevin O'Connell will kind of do the same. Kevin's going to be like, dude, this is my team. Shut up, sit down, and do your job. The only place I can see Rodgers going to where he might get, he'll probably be the one running things is, again, New York with the Giants. Because Brian Daboll, he's practically on his last leg there. Like, we don't think that about Mike, even though a lot of people think Mike Tomlin should be fired because the Steelers are pretty much stagnant now. The Steelers owners, they're not going to fire Tomlin. As long as he keeps getting to the playoffs, they're not going to fire him.
He's one of my favorite coaches, seriously.
And O'Connell, he's not getting fired either. He just took Sam Darnold and took the freaking, Vikings to the playoffs. So Rodgers is not going to be able to run things in Minnesota. He's not going to be able to run things in Pittsburgh. But in New York, the Giants, the other New York team, Daboll is literally on the hot seat this year. If he doesn't do something this year, I'm pretty sure he's gone. So Rodgers could go there and take over the team.
Rodgers would do whatever he wants.
And then Russ, like I said, if Rodgers goes to the Vikings or the Giants, that might open the door for Russ. Like, Pittsburgh might not have no other choice. I mean, the only other choice they would have if they didn't want to bring back Russ is there is one quarterback we haven't talked about that I'm pretty sure, well, you'd have to trade for him, would be Kirk Cousins. Because I know the Vikings said they'll trade him, but it would all depend on the cap situation because we know he's all, I think it's like, what is it, 50 or 60 million they would have to pay. But they'd be like, hey, Pittsburgh, give us like, if you give us a 6th round pick, you guys can have Cousins, but you got to take some of his contract, and then maybe they take Cousins, but they would have to trade for him and take on most of his contract. Or they'd have to re-sign Russell Wilson. Unless they take a quarterback in the later rounds of the draft this year, which if I was Mike Tomlin, I wouldn't fucking do that because you suck at drafting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, but before we get out of here, we got one more comment here from Michael. He's like, keep up the amazing work covering the Denver Broncos, Ed Muhammad. Go Bo Broncos. Thanks, Michael. Really appreciate your comment, man. You've been a loyal, watcher since we started this channel. And we really appreciate that. But Muhammad, any final thoughts or comments before we get out of here tonight?
Hey, we're definitely ascending. We're heading the right way, Eddie. And with the draft coming up, all the additions the Broncos are gonna make. What you said earlier about us winning the division, I don't think that's crazy, Eddie. It's very possible. Just by how we upgraded our defense, and then adding the tight end Evan Ingram, you know. Um, can't wait for the draft. Can't wait for the season to start.
Yeah, me too, man. And I'm excited. I'm still sitting here looking at my phone, waiting for the Cooper Cup news to freaking break.
Gonna
Regardless if
happen.
it's him signing with the Broncos or with somebody else, I'm just waiting for it to break. But based on what I'm hearing, or it seems like Cup might make a decision tonight, and we'll probably hear about it. Like if you fall, like I'm probably gonna go to bed here in like the next hour or so, and then knowing my luck, I won't see it tonight. I won't know until tomorrow morning when I wake up and check my phone. But man, I'm excited, dude. I cannot wait for the draft. Like the Broncos, like I said, they're gonna go running back first round. They have to. They gotta get their RB1 of the future. You gotta get a run game for this team. Like you got your tight, like maybe Ingram's not the long-term solution at tight end, but he'll do for the next couple of years. He's a good player that can really help Bo Nix in this offense. He could be that joker. You desperately need a run game. Like whether if it's Henderson, Genty, or one of these other backs in the draft, you got to get one. And honestly, actually, I wanted to touch on this last thing, Mohammed. I wanted to get your opinion on this real quick. Like with Sean Payton being like really aggressive and liking to trade up, and George Payton being the one that likes to trade back and stockpile more picks, what do you think is more likely with the Broncos to do with their first overall pick? Trade up, stay where they're at, or trade back?
It's really hard to say, Eddie, because I don't know who's in their board as far as like a tight end or a running back. If it's like Ashton Genty and that's the guy that Sean Payton really wants, I could see them actually moving up. But if the players that they have high on their board are already gone, they might as well just trade back, Eddie, and get more picks. Maybe get
Yeah,
an extra pick on the second round or third round.
you're picking to pick 20. You could trade back to like 27 or something and pick up like an extra
Exactly.
second or an extra third.
Yeah. So.
And
Well,
you do that, and then you get your running back at 27 or 28, and then like in the second round, if you pick up an extra second rounder, or you pick up an extra third, you get later in the draft, you trade up or you trade it back, and maybe you're sitting at pick, say in the second round, sitting at pick like 48 or something. You can use that extra third to trade up, farther into the second round to get a guy that you don't think is going to be there by the time you pick. Like there's a lot of things they can do. I'm excited to see, dude. Like the draft every year is right around my birthday, and that's the best birthday present I get. Last year it was great because we got Bo Nix, and I was happier than hell whenever that pick was made. I was picking it all through the offseason. But the years prior to that, the draft kind of sucked because we didn't have first round picks. But at the same time, I thought we had a franchise QB too, and that turned out to be a bust. So, but that's it for us tonight, guys. We got through a lot tonight, man. Like I said, I'm excited about free agency. We still got the second and third wave of free agency to get through. Like I said, the Cooper news is probably going to break at some point tonight. I might not be awake whenever I see it, but if you guys see it, send me a message or something on X or on, the pages on Facebook or whatever. Just send me a message and let me know. Like I do wake up periodically through the night. I really, don't try to scroll too much, but I have a feeling that news is going to break tonight. And to be honest, I've had people ask me, where do you think he's going to sign? You think he's going to sign with the Broncos? I honestly have no idea. Like, if I had to guess, it's going to come down between the Broncos or the Patriots for Cooper Cup. That's who I think is going to sign him, one of those two teams. So, but that's it for us tonight, guys. Mohammed, it was great talking to you again, man. Can't wait to do this next week and can't wait to get to the draft, man. We're going to have so much to do that night. So, please, guys, like, comment, subscribe on this video. Also, hit the bell notification so you know when we go live. And Mohammed, I'll see you next week, bro.
All right. Take care, Eddie.
All right. Peace, everybody.